When someone dies, it's not the photos that stay with you. It's the small things. A cracked phone screen, a scent that lingers, numbers that no one will ever dial again. Jack found Molly's phone while going through her old things. 8 months had passed since the funeral, but only now he was ready to open that box.
There were papers, a movie ticket, a ring, and at the bottom, the phone. He pressed the button. The screen flickered, almost dead, but it turned on. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from memory. He opened her messages. The last one was sent to him, dated the night before she died. "Be home by 8. I have news." He never came.
And below it, another message. A draft, unsended. He opened it. "Jack, I'm not angry. I'm just tired of waiting for you to become the man you used to be. I thought we were still a team, but maybe we're just 2 shores apart now. If you're reading this, I guess I didn't hit send. Maybe that's for the best. Take care. And please, don't try to fix everything. Just let go."
The screen went black. Jack sat still. He didn't cry. He couldn't even breathe. He remembered that night, the late shift, the knock on the door, the neighbor saying, "Accident." Everything after that, blank. Now, 8 months later, she was speaking to him again, through an unsent message, through silence, through time itself.
He took a photo of the screen, then dialed her number, knowing no one would answer. "Hey, Molly," he whispered, "I found your message." He paused. "You were right. I kept trying to fix everything, everyone, myself, but that's not what you wanted." He smiled faintly. "I'm letting go now." The phone beeped, battery dead. The screen turned dark again.
The next morning, Jack drove to the shore, the place they used to go on weekends. Molly loved it there. "The water always takes the pain," she used to say. He sat on their old bench, placed the phone and her ring beside him. The sun was rising, soft and golden. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for teaching me not to be afraid of silence." Then he threw the ring into the sea. The ring disappeared under the water. At that exact moment, his phone vibrated. A new message. Unknown number. Sometimes you have to leave so someone else can find their way back. He froze. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe not. But he smiled, because for the first time in a long while, he felt that someone, somewhere, had heard him. Jack didn't understand why he even picked up the phone. Maybe because a part of her still lived there. Her voice, her photos, her messages that would never come again. He stared at the lock screen for a long time. The sea, taken from the pier. She was laughing then, the wind in her hair, and he'd said, "If I could stop time, I'd stop it right here." "Then learn how," she'd answered, "because it won't repeat." He hadn't realized that was their last day when everything was still whole. Memories came in flashes, the smell of coffee, music in the kitchen, her bare feet on the cold floor. It all blurred together with that evening when he stayed late at work. Just a few more hours, then home, he thought. Then came the call. Then, the silence. The phone trembled in his hand. He opened the gallery. First photo, the two of them, soaked under the rain. Second, she's asleep in the car, her head on his shoulder. Third, an empty beach, footprints in the sand. The fourth, her smile, eyes squinting, with that look that says, "I know everything about you, even what you hide from yourself." Jack closed his eyes. He breathed in. The air smelled of dust, old paper, and salt, as if even here, in her things, the ocean had left a trace. He turned the screen back on. A message popped up. Location not found. He smiled. Yeah, Molly, you always knew how to disappear. Among her old notes, he found a folder titled December. Inside, drafts, memos, voice recordings. He played the first one. Her voice, quiet, tired, but alive. I don't know what's happening to us. You're here, but it feels like you're somewhere else. I'm tired of waiting for you to look at me again, not through me. He turned it off. He couldn't bear it. She hadn't planned it. She didn't know that week would be her last. That evening, he sat on the porch, listening to the rain. The phone lay in front of him, and one thought kept looping. If only I'd come home on time. But he didn't, and now all he had left, her voice from the past, and a screen that goes dark every time he thinks he's ready to move on. He wasn't ready. He never would be. The next day, Jack returned home closer to noon. The sunlight flooded the windows, yet it felt wrong, too bright for a room still holding her scent. He made coffee, though he couldn't taste it anymore, and sat at the old wooden table, the same spot where she used to read in the mornings. Everything on the table was as she had left it: a notebook, a cup, a couple of books, and a neatly tied stack of envelopes. He had seen them before, but never touched them. It was easier that way. If he didn't open them, they would stay just paper. No pain, no meaning. Today, he opened one. The first envelope was empty. The second contained a single note. If you're reading this, it means I didn't get to tell you in time. Don't be angry. Just remember. He turned the paper over. Only a date written there. 4 days before the accident. The third envelope trembled in his hands. Inside were 3 pages filled with her handwriting. I know you're not good at talking about feelings. Neither am I. We fix things, cars, walls, people, but never ourselves. I want you to know I'm not leaving. Even if I'm gone, I'll stay. In the morning noise, the hum of your engine, in the smell of coffee you make for no one but still make. He read until the end, frozen, then noticed a small line at the bottom. P.S. I knew you'd go back to the sea one day. If you make it to the end of the bay, look under the bridge. You'll find your answer. His heart skipped. He didn't believe in signs. Not until that moment. He grabbed his keys, threw on his jacket, and left. The bay greeted him with its familiar silence. The water shimmered under the pale sky. The bridge, old concrete, chipped and weathered, stood still as if holding its breath. He cut the engine and drifted closer. There, beneath the bridge, he saw it. A small metal box tied to a beam with a frayed rope. His hands shook as he cut it loose and lifted it from the water. Inside was a pendant, old and darkened by salt, and a folded note. You said you never learned how to lose. Maybe because you never tried to let go. Try now. If you can, the sea will return what's meant for you, but only when you stop waiting. He stared at the pendant for a long time. Inside the tiny glass, a grain of amber with a trapped air bubble, like a memory, still and eternal. When he came back home, the sun was setting. The sky burned with red streaks, and the ocean looked alive. He placed the pendant on the table, poured himself a glass of whiskey, and sat in silence. For the first time in months, he didn't feel pain. only calm. The world hadn't become easier. He had simply stopped fighting it. And maybe that night, for the first time, he understood. Losing doesn't always mean disappearing. Sometimes it's just another way to stay. He turned the phone back on. The screen lit up dimly, and almost on its own, the messages section opened. Among the recent dialogues were familiar names: Molly's sister, the accountant, a neighbor, and one contact Jack had never seen before. Aaron. No last name, no photo, just a name. He tapped it. The conversation started almost 2 years ago. At first, dry and ordinary. Did you get home? Yes, everything's fine. Don't disappear. Then, warmer, but without any direct confessions. You looked tired today. Try to rest at least sometimes. I'm trying. Thanks for writing. If anything happens, I'm here. Later, almost a year after that. You promised you wouldn't vanish this time. Sorry, things just piled up. You don't owe anyone explanations. Just stay in touch. There wasn't a single hint that she wasn't free. Nothing to suggest he knew about anyone else. He scrolled to the final weeks before her death. You still haven't said when you're leaving. Soon. I just don't want to rush into things. I don't need anything except honesty from you. I am being honest. It's just not everything depends on me. There weren't many messages, but each one seemed chosen carefully. No names, no details. 2 parallel lives, perfectly separated. And the last one, already after her death. You disappeared again or changed your mind? At least give me a sign you're all right. Jack read that message twice. This man wasn't random. But just like Jack, he lived fully convinced that Molly belonged only to him. He didn't feel rage, just emptiness. If there was this man, then maybe there was someone else no one knew about. The phone lay on the table like a piece of evidence. Jack stared at it as if it could answer the questions that had come far too late. He sat in silence for a long time until the screen finally went dark. It felt as if, along with it, the last false certainty had faded. The certainty that he knew the woman he had lived with for 10 years. He tried to remember. Were there moments when Molly left for long periods? Yes. Explanations? Work, her mother, exhaustion, the need to be alone. He had never checked, not because he trusted her, but because he was afraid to know. He turned the phone back on and opened the contact. Aaron. Was there a number? Yes. He stared at the digits, and only one thought spun in his mind. Call or throw it all to hell. His hand reached for the phone on its own. He dialed and hung up. His jaw tightened. He poured himself whiskey, not water, not coffee. He drank standing, without tasting it. 5 minutes later, he finally pressed the call button. Ring. Second. Third. On the 4th, someone answered. Hello? A man. Calm voice. Tired. Jack stayed silent for 3 seconds before speaking. It's about Molly. A pause. Short, but heavy. Who are you? I was going to ask you the same question. The silence thickened. Then the man's voice became cautious, but not hostile. Are you a relative? No. Then, I'm Jack Harper. We live together. The line went quiet, as if drained.
Then a barely audible exhale. "Damn," the man said. "Then we need to meet." They met without unnecessary words, in a corner cafe where Molly used to love the blueberry pie. Neither of them suggested another place, as if both understood it wouldn't work anywhere else. Jack arrived earlier. The man walked in 7 minutes later. Average height, neatly dressed, around 40. He looked around and recognized Jack immediately. Not from a photo, from his eyes. They sat across from each other. No handshakes, no names. A few seconds passed in silence. Then the man spoke first. "I'm Aaron." Jack nodded. "I know." The waiter approached, but they both only asked for water. Neither of them wanted to order anything in this conversation. "Were you with her for long?" Aaron was the first to break the silence. "Almost 10 years, Jack said. "And you?" 2 years. A pause followed. Not judgmental, just empty. "Did you know about me?" Jack asked. "No. And you about me?" "No." Aaron rubbed his temples as if trying to erase the very fact of being here. "She told me she lived alone, that she'd been alone for a long time, that she wasn't ready for anything serious." Jack let out a dry, muted laugh. "She lived with me, but turns out she wasn't ready for that either." They didn't shout, didn't blame each other. They were surprisingly calm about things they would have considered impossible only yesterday. "I thought," Aaron began, but didn't finish. "I thought too," Jack finished for him. The pause became heavier than the air around them. "Strange," Aaron said. "I was going to propose to her in a month." Jack closed his eyes and lowered his head for a moment. "Me too. I already bought the ring." At that moment, they looked at each other for the first time, truly. Not as rivals, not as enemies, but as two people whose past had been knocked out from under them with one blow. "Are you angry at her?" Aaron asked. "I'm angry at myself," Jack replied, "and at the fact that I never asked a single question I didn't want to hear the answer to." Aaron took a deep breath. Never ask those questions, not if you're not ready to hear the truth. Especially if the truth will break you, Jack added. For a while, they sat in silence. The water in their glasses remained untouched. "What do we do now?" Aaron asked quietly. "Nothing," Jack said. "It's already happened." "Are you going to get rid of her things?" "Yes, but not right away. I need to say goodbye first." Aaron nodded. "Are you going to return her phone?" he asked. Jack shook his head. "No. Too much of her is already left between us to divide that too." They stood up almost at the same time. They didn't say sorry or good luck. They just left, each in his own direction, as if they had never existed in the same world. Already at the door, Aaron did turn around. "You know, it's strange. I thought it would hurt to hate someone, but it turns out it hurts more to accept that there's no one here to hate." Jack gave a slight nod. "And that the truth isn't liberation, it's a sentence." Outside, the wind drove dust and scraps of dry leaves along the street. Jack took Molly's phone out of his pocket. He looked at the black screen for a long time, then put it back. He didn't throw it away, but he didn't turn it on either. He walked off without looking back. Because there are things that can't be fixed. There are questions you must never ask, and there are answers you're better off never knowing. Before you go, take a second to support the author. It's just a couple of clicks, nothing complicated, but it helps these stories keep coming. Subscribe, and you won't miss what happens next.